Djokovic thanks doubters for motivation after reaching Australian Open final. Melbourne. Novak Djokovic said he had always believed he could still play at the top level of tennis and rounded on those who had tried to usher him into retirement after beating Jannik Sinner in the semi-finals of the Australian Open on Friday. The 38-year-old rolled back the years with a vintage display to down the double-defending champion in a 5-set thriller and set up a final against Carlos Alcaraz, giving him the chance to land a first Grand Slam title since September 2023. "I never stopped believing in myself, you know. There's a lot of people that doubt me. I see there's a lot of experts all of a sudden that wanted to retire me or have retired me many times the last couple of years," he told reporters. "I want to thank them all, because they gave me strength. They gave me motivation to prove them wrong, which I have tonight. For me, it's not a surprise, to be honest. I know what I'm capable of. I've had many, many times in my career matches during the Grand Slam where it's just one of those days where you're not feeling your best. You try to find a way to win with everything that you possibly have, even though the quality of tennis is not even close to where you want it to be. So that was the case, you know." Djokovic, who is bidding to win a record 25th Grand Slam title, conceded he had been fortunate to have 2 walkovers in the earlier rounds but said there was no luck in Friday's win. "I came out with great clarity about the strategy and game plan that needed to be executed," he added. "Obviously easier said than done. One thing is to imagine how you want to play, and the other thing is to deliver it and execute it on the court against Sinner, who we all know is playing an extremely high level. I'm just thrilled to be able to experience something like this tonight." With Friday's earlier semifinal between Alex Zverev running nearly 5.5 hours, Djokovic's clash with Sinner finished well into the early hours of Saturday morning. That will leave the 4th seed little time to recuperate before Sunday's final against 22-year-old Alcaraz. "It's almost 3 a.m. Yeah, let's see. I cannot make any predictions right now," he said. "Definitely not going to train tomorrow. Just going to use every hour I possibly can to recover, and hopefully get out on the finals day feeling somewhat refreshed." Djokovic thanks the doubters, fuel on the road to the Australian Open final. The applause inside Rod Laver Arena did not sound like doubt. It sounded like belief. Thousands of hands colliding, voices rising, history breathing in the air. Novak Djokovic stood still for a moment, racket resting against his leg, eyes scanning the crowd. Another Australian Open final. Another chapter added. And yet, as familiar as the scene was, the journey here had been anything but comfortable. "I want to thank the people who doubted me," he would later say. Not with bitterness, but with something closer to gratitude. In a sport that measures greatness in trophies and numbers, Djokovic has always measured it in something else too: resistance. The weight of expectations. For most players, reaching a Grand Slam final is the achievement of a lifetime. For Djokovic, it is often treated as an expectation rather than a miracle. And expectations are heavy. They do not cheer, they judge. They whisper questions before the first ball is struck. Is he still hungry? Is his body holding up? Has time finally caught him? Doubt has followed Djokovic like a shadow, sometimes loud, sometimes quiet, but always present. Doubt about his style when he first broke into a game dominated by elegance and power. Doubt about his emotional intensity. Doubt about his ability to stand alongside legends. Even after he answered those questions with trophies, the doubts merely changed their shape. Age, injuries, motivation, pressure. Every new season, the list refreshed itself. A different kind of opponent. On his way to the Australian Open final, Djokovic faced opponents armed with youth, speed, and fearlessness. But the most relentless opponent was invisible. It lived in headlines, in commentary, in the casual shrug that said, "Maybe this time he won't make it." Doubt does not scream. It lingers. And Djokovic listened, not to surrender, but to collect it. He has always been a player who transforms emotion into energy. Where others push doubt away, he pulls it closer, studies it, sharpens it. Each question mark becomes a reminder of the work still to be done. Each prediction of decline becomes a reason to wake earlier, train longer, recover smarter. "I don't need everyone to believe in me," his career has suggested again and again. "I need just enough resistance to keep the fire alive." Melbourne, a familiar battlefield. The Australian Open has always been more than just a tournament for Djokovic. It is where his resilience feels amplified, where his movement seems to glide rather than run, where long rallies bend toward his will. Melbourne does not erase pressure, but it understands him. This year, though, the road was rougher. Matches stretched into grueling hours. Bodies tested limits. Moments arrived where one point, one slip, one hesitation could tilt everything. And still, he endured. Between points, Djokovic's face revealed a familiar intensity. Clenched jaw, focused eyes, controlled breathing. Not anger, not fear. Determination sharpened by memory, of injuries, of criticism, of being written off too soon. The doubters were there in those moments. And so was his response. The speech beneath the victory. When the final point was won and the handshake exchanged, the celebration was measured. Djokovic has celebrated before. He knows what comes next. But when he spoke, the words carried more weight than usual. He did not boast. He did not dismiss. He thanked. Thanked the people who questioned him. Thanked the skepticism that forced him to look inward. Thanked the disbelief that reminded him why he started playing in the first place. Not for comfort, but for challenge. In a world that often demands validation, Djokovic offered a different lesson. You don't have to silence doubt. You can use it. Why doubt matters. Doubt, in Djokovic's story, is not the villain. Comfort is. Comfort tells you that what you've done is enough. Doubt asks whether you can do it again, under new circumstances, with new obstacles, when the body is tired and the mind is crowded. By thanking his doubters, Djokovic wasn't surrendering to criticism. He was reclaiming control over it, turning noise into purpose, turning skepticism into structure. It is a mindset that goes beyond tennis, because everyone knows doubt. Not the kind shouted by rivals, but the quiet version that slips into your own thoughts late at night. The voice that asks whether your best days are behind you, whether the climb is worth it again. Djokovic's answer, standing on the blue court in Melbourne, was clear. Yes, and again, more than a final. Reaching the Australian Open final was not just another statistic added to an already historic career. It was a statement, not of dominance, but of endurance. Proof that greatness is not only about winning when everything aligns, but about showing up when it doesn't. Djokovic did not run from the doubts surrounding him this season. He carried them. Let them weigh him down just enough to strengthen.